All right, well, thanks everybody for joining. There's still a few people jumping onto the Zoom as we start here, but let's get going. This is Steve Weber. I'm one of the co-founders of Cloud Stack Services. I'm here today to talk about a little bit about us and about our Fundraising Manager product. Some of you may be familiar with it, but we've just recently released a pretty significant update, and we thought it was time for us to do one of these webinars to bring everybody up to speed with the latest and greatest version. Just a few administrative notes to get started. Everybody's joined muted. I'd ask that if you have questions, just drop them into the chat window. We'll do our best to address them on the webinar. And if not, we'll follow up with answers to all your questions by email. Speaking of email, we're going to follow up this webinar with an email of the very few slides that we've got here, just so you have them for reference. And the webinar is being recorded, so we'll share a recording as well so that you can reference it as well. The slides have all of my contact information in them. So if you do have further questions or you'd like to arrange a follow-up demo or discussion, just feel free to reach out to me and we'll accommodate that as best that we can. I hope everybody can see my screen. Just a small agenda for today's webinar. A little bit of an introduction to CloudStack, what we're all about, where we've been, and what we're doing now. A little bit of an introduction into why we've built the fundraising manager as well. And then we'll dive right into a demo of the fundraising manager so you can see how it works and what it's capable of. And then we'll close out the call with a bit of a summary of the features of the fundraising manager and questions and next steps. So just by way of introduction, CloudStack is a Salesforce.org registered partner. We do Salesforce implementations exclusively for nonprofit organizations. That gives us really good insight into not just the Salesforce platform, the Salesforce platform specifically for nonprofit organizations, as well as many of the use cases and challenges that our nonprofit customers face and how we can address them on the Salesforce platform. We started the company in 2016 with a goal of making the Salesforce platform more achievable or attainable for nonprofit organizations, especially smaller organizations. Many of you know that Salesforce.org makes 10 licenses, 10 free user licenses to the Salesforce platform freely available to nonprofit or to qualifying nonprofit organizations, which is great. It's a very generous grant, but there's still a matter of setting up Salesforce, configuring it, and potentially customizing it to meet all of your needs and requirements, and that's where we come in. When we started the company, we envisioned the need across a broad set of nonprofits for fundraising capability. That is the ability to put a donation form onto your website that your donors can visit, can make a donation, that you can process that donation via a credit card through a payment processor, that you can capture all of that information into your CRM, namely Salesforce, and that you can issue an acknowledgement, acknowledging your donor, and a receipt. And that receipt comes in various flavors. If you're a Canadian customer, you're going to want a receipt that meets all of the CRA's receipting requirements. And if you're not a Canadian customer, you may have other requirements, and we have the capability to configure our receipting engine to do just exactly what our customers want. So, without further ado, I'll talk a little bit more about the fundraising manager. We've built it in a way that is native to the Salesforce platform. So fundraising manager is completely consistent with the data structures that come with Salesforce and the nonprofit success pack that Salesforce.org provides freely to all nonprofits. We provide a quick start program as part of the fundraising manager license, so that we can get our customers up and running on the Salesforce platform with the nonprofit success pack and with fundraising manager very quickly and very cost effectively. We don't impose any restrictions on things like the number of records or the number of contacts or the number of donations. We're not a payment processor. We use Stripe Payments, one of the world's leading payment processors, to process credit card transactions, but we don't participate in the transaction fee. We don't add any transaction fees to that. We have one simple annual license fee that covers all that you get with the Fundraising Manager. We've embedded into the product the ability to create customizable acknowledgement emails, rich text acknowledgement emails. And of course, we have a CRA compliant tax receipting process that includes split receipting and consolidated receipting and replacement receipting if you're interested in being CRA compliant, and any subset of that if you're in a different jurisdiction and want to be able to acknowledge and receipt your donors. So without any further ado, I'll jump into a bit of a demo. So what you're looking at here is just a WordPress website page with our donation form that comes with the Fundraising Manager embedded into it. Now, some notes about this form. It's just one form that you're looking at here, but you're able with Fundraising Manager to create as many of these forms as you want. You can create them in English or in French. They're completely bilingual. You can customize each version to have different ask ladders, different default positions for the ask ladder. So it doesn't have to be one time and $25. It can be any position on the ask ladder that you want. You can attach descriptions to various amounts so that you can give your donors incentives to maybe give a larger amount. I don't have a description here, but you can see that they're very easily configured with descriptions on each amount. You can customize the list of where your donor can direct their funds, and that's all configurable inside of Salesforce, and we're compatible with both Salesforce campaigns as well as the Salesforce fund allocation, GAU allocation methods in the Salesforce platform, so it's very, very flexible. You can enable and disable various optional features on the form, so tributes and newsletter subscriptions and anonymity. And if you're, again, CRA compliant, group donations are all configurable options, as is the option to allow the donor to specify correspondence language. So if a French-speaking donor happens to land on your English page, that's no problem. They can set their correspondence language so that you correspond with them in French in the future. So all of those options are configurable. And additionally, you can configure the look and feel of this form in several ways. Firstly, you can either embed it directly into a website, a web page on your website like this one is, or you can choose to put it on a background image as this one is and use it as a standalone landing page, which is also possible. So if you've got a campaign that you want to stand up a donation landing page for quickly, you can do that in a matter of minutes using the Fundraising Manager. Or as one of our recent customers has done, you can do both and embed it on a website. You can customize all the colors to match your website, and you can use a background image as well. So this is one of our customers that's recently adopted the Fundraising Manager, the Lynn Sage Breast Cancer Foundation. And they've done a pretty good job, we think, of styling our form and embedding it onto their website. I'll come back to the original form here, and I'm going to go ahead and make a simple donation. So I'm going to make a $25 one-time donation to the where it's most needed direction. I'm not going to choose any of these particular options. I'm going to fill in my donor's name and his credit card number. And I'm going to select to cover the fees. So the Fundraising Manager allows you to enable an option for your donor to cover the transaction processing fees so that you don't have to pay them, so that you net the full donation. And go ahead and make that donation. This form is configured to redirect to a specific URL, which you have control of on each form that you configure. So you can redirect it to a specific landing page on your website or wherever you see fit. So Bob here has made a donation for $25.87, including the transaction fees. It's processing through Stripe. It's been successful, and it's redirected to the URL that we've specified on the form configuration. And now I can jump over to Bob's Gmail account, and he almost instantly, has an email. It's a rich text email. This email is completely customizable by you within Salesforce. I'll show you how you do that in a second. You can change those emails and modify them and make them as specific as you want. You can have individual email acknowledgements per form. So you can have different donation forms that drive different acknowledgement emails. And you can even have different email acknowledgements per donor direction. So if Bob had chosen to make his donation to the summer 2021 campaign, you can assign a unique acknowledgement email to that particular donor direction so that they get a unique acknowledgement. Just back to Bob's email here. So he's got a nice acknowledgement thanking him for his generous donation, and attached to it is a secure PDF file. So it's a CRA compliant PDF file. It has all the elements on it that the CRA expects to see in a receipt, right down to the URL to their website. It contains, of course, a unique serial number. It would contain your organization's CRA registration number and all the details of the donation that are required. This template we give you as a Microsoft Word document. So you don't have to use this template. You can customize it any way that you want to, any way that you can do in Microsoft Word to make it your own. Change the copy, change the colors, change the font. Obviously, you're going to change the logo and the signature. You make that your own. We plug that into the system, and you've got your own receipts being issued on your letterhead instantaneously. I'm going to jump now straight into Salesforce. So some of you may have seen Salesforce before, some of you may have not. This is the home screen that you see when you are using Fundraising Manager. This is all very configurable to meet your particular needs. Some of these elements come with the Fundraising Manager application. So this Donation Manager form here looks very much, refresh that to have it back to the beginning of the form. Looks very much like the form you saw on the web. It's a unique version of that form, so it can be configured to do whatever amounts, whatever donor directions you want to make available. Its intention is for your internal staff to be able to enter donations that you receive by phone or that you receive by check, or hopefully someday post-pandemic when people walk into your office and make donations with cash. This giving summary is also part of the Fundraising Manager, and it's a simple chart that shows you one-time donations, recurring donation installments, and recurring donation pledges. Those are installments associated with a recurring donation that haven't been paid yet. But in addition to that, we've customized it here with a bit of a Salesforce dashboard that shows us the total donations this year, the total dollar amount of those donations, and how many donors that we've acquired this year. These are completely customizable, and they're an example of how Fundraising Manager integrates seamlessly with all of the capabilities of the Salesforce platform. I'm going to go ahead and make another donation right here real quickly. And it's going to be from Bob again. But in this case, I can choose whether I'm entering a donation by credit card or check or cash. And if I choose a different payment method, the necessary fields change as well so that you enter the correct information. I'm going to make it by credit card, but I can also choose whether I want to acknowledge it right now or whether I want to acknowledge and receipt it later, which I'm going to use for demonstration purposes. The reason for this is, especially if you're a CRA compliant organization, you may not want to issue, you may want to issue an acknowledgement, but you may not want to issue a receipt with a check donation until that check actually clears at the bank. You don't want to get yourself into the headache of having to cancel receipts and contact the CRA and notify them if in fact there's a problem with the check, which is a polite way of saying just in case the check bounces. So I'll go ahead and make this donation, and I won't cover the fees this time, and I'll process that donation. And while it processes, of course, it's going to send me an email. Correct myself, it's not going to send me an email acknowledgement. But in this case, because I'm a staff member and I'm in the back end of the system, it's directed me straight to the donation record that represents this donation. So you can see that it's a donation for $25. It has not been acknowledged. It has not been receipted, so there's no receipt number. There's no advantage amount associated with this. That's a bit of a beyond the scope of this demo, but we, like I said earlier, we support complete split receipting functionality, so you can assign benefits to donations and have the receipt reflect that. And therefore, the eligible amount of this particular donation is $25. What I'm going to do now is go across here and look at a little bit more detail. You can see the information about the payment. It was made by credit card. It was a Visa card. And the transaction fees totaled $1.03. It's been allocated to the general fund. There's no activity yet. I'm going to come back to that. And there's some extra, more administrative or debugging information associated with it as well. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say, let's receipt this donation now. So in the case where we want to manually receipt a donation, we simply create the receipt. We choose whether we want to automatically email this receipt to the donor or not. I'm going to say yes, and we process the receipt. And what happens now is, refresh the record. So now the donation's been updated automatically to acknowledged. The receipt's been sent. The receipt is number 131, and all the rest of the information remains the same. If I go to this activity tab now, you can see that there's an actual activity logged against this donation. And we can have a quick look at that. And the activity is an exact copy of the email that was sent to the donor with the attached PDF receipt right there. Open that as well if we want to and see the receipt. So you've got a complete record of all of the communications that the fundraising manager sends to your donors. You can review that. You can use it to clarify whether somebody received something or not. It's there for your records. It's easily searchable. We go back here to the donation. I'm going to have a look at this receipt record, and there is a record of the receipt. It collects a lot of the information redundantly that's on the donation, but the receipt also has the donation that it covers related to it, as well as the PDF file. But from here, if the donor happens to call you and say, that was great that you sent me my receipt, but I've unfortunately lost it, or perhaps there was a typo or an error in the donor's address or name or something like that, and you want that corrected, you can make those corrections and you can create a replacement receipt. And the process is very much like creating the original receipt, except you still have the option to either deliver it or just process it. I'll send it by email. And what happens now is a CRA compliant replacement receipt has been created. And you can see that this receipt is now number 132. The previously issued receipt is number 131. It still covers the same donation, and it still has a PDF file, but this one's a little bit different. It looks exactly the same, except that it specifically notes that it's replacing the previously issued receipt, which is exactly the way that the CRA wants you to, to issue replacement receipts. If I close this and navigate to the previously issued receipt, you can see it's been replaced by number 132, and the status of this one is voided. I'm back here on the donation now, and I'm going to navigate from here to the primary contact, or the donor's record. And from the donor's record, we can see that all of his personal information, so his name and his email address and his phone number and his address, and his giving summary, all the statistics of his giving to date, first and last gift dates, best gift year, total gifts this year, total gifts lifetime, various roll-up summary information of all of his donations. You can see a list of all of the donations that this donor has provided, when the closing date was, what receipt has been issued. You can see that there's some here that have not been receipted yet. Some of these are associated with a recurring donation and they're pledged, which means they're installments that are coming in the future. You can see a list of all the recurring donations associated with this donor. And you can see all of the activity associated with this donor. So you can see all of the emails that have been sent to this donor for various donations or receipt replacements or acknowledgements. Anything that the fundraising manager sends automatically is recorded on the donor's record so that you've got a complete record of it. Just like the example on the donation, there is a copy of the actual email and the attached PDF file that was sent to the donor. Also conveniently on the donor's record, we have a duplicate contacts tab. Fortunately, there's no duplicates of Bob in the system today, but if you do happen to detect, if Salesforce does happen to detect duplicates, they'll show up here and it'll give you a simple process to deal with those duplicates. You can choose to ignore them if they're not actually duplicates, or you can merge them together using a Salesforce process to do that. The really cool thing is that Fundraising Manager now uses standard Salesforce-based duplicate matching rules, which means that you can customize the matching criteria to suit your particular organization. So there's no fixed method to detect a duplicate. It's basically how you want it to be. I'm going to use this to navigate to a recurring donation. So Bob's got several recurring donations. We'll try this one out. And on a recurring donation, you can see again the details of it. It's a $50 donation. It's a monthly recurring gift. The installment frequency is once every month. The next donation date is expected to be on November 13th, and this is an active recurring gift. You can see the schedule as it exists at the payment processor. So this is what the payment processor Stripe is actually going to follow. You can see installments associated with this gift. You can see that on October 13th, one installment was paid, the next one expected on November 13th. And you can see various other information about the recurring donation. Speaking of these unreceipted recurring donation installments, the fundraising manager, when a new recurring gift is set up, will send an email acknowledgement to the donor, but it will not issue a receipt. Donors don't generally want to receive a receipt every month or every week or whatever the frequency of that recurring gift is. They prefer to receive a consolidated receipt or a year-end giving summary at the end of the year. Fundraising Manager makes that possible as well. And navigate back over to the to the contact here, and I'm going to use this Create Consolidated Receipt button to create a consolidated receipt of all of the unreceipted donations in the tax year or calendar year 2021. So Bob here has 2 one-time donations totaling $50 and 6 recurring donation installments that have not been associated with a receipt. We're going to go ahead and create that receipt. It's being emailed off to Bob as we speak. It'll show up in his email in a second. There's a record of the receipt now. It's receipt number 133. There are the 8 donations that it mentioned, 2 of which are not part of a recurring donation. The rest are installments of a recurring donation. There's a receipt PDF file attached to it. We can have a look at that. It looks very much like a one-time receipt for $240 in this case, but it comes with a second page that tabularly represents all of the donations or recurring donation installments that are included on this particular receipt. So the first page is for the CRA. The second page is for the donor's information so that they can make sense of what was included in this particular receipt and what wasn't. Just back to the list of donations here, you can see which donations were included on this receipt. And the fundraising manager takes care of, if I navigate to one of these receipts, or one of these donations, excuse me, takes care of making sure that that individual donation or the individual installment is also related back to that receipt number 133. So you can come at this from any perspective and always make sure that you've got the correct receipt associated with a donation. I'm going to jump back to the contact here for a second. You recall that when we jumped into Fundraising Manager, we made a donation, or Bob made a donation through the Fundraising Manager, the Donation Manager form on the homepage here. And that was a bit tedious because it required us to enter all of Bob's information. I had it saved in the browser here, but we had to enter it all. But Salesforce is a very powerful platform. And so rather than do that, we can use the searching capabilities in Salesforce to simply look up Bob if he calls us to make a donation, and then use the new donation button right on the contact to generate a donation form that you can now click through. And the advantage of this, as we click through it, is that there's no opportunity or no need to type in Bob's personal information because we already know what it is. All we have to do now is take his credit card on the phone or change this to check, to enter a check gift and process the donation. The acknowledgement, the receipt can all be handled automatically. I'm going to change gears a little bit now and switch personas from somebody that's a fundraising manager or a development officer into a little bit more of an admin perspective. And you recall at the beginning of the demo, we talked about the ability with Fundraising Manager to create an unlimited number of donation forms and the ability to configure each of those forms with the look and feel, the ask ladder amounts, the default values and optional features and so on. So I've navigated over here to this form configurations tab that comes with the Fundraising Manager. And I'll navigate to one of these records. Each of these records represents a single unique donation form. And on this record, you can configure the look and feel, the optional features, the success URL, that is the redirect URL after a donation is made, a background image URL. You can specify the donation amounts that you want to populate in the donation buttons. You can associate descriptions with them. You can select campaigns from Salesforce that you want to make available for the donor to direct their donations to. You can, there's a number of ways, it's a little bit more in depth than the scope of this webinar, but you can attach allocations or fund allocations to those campaigns. Or conversely, a Fundraising Manager can be configured to use allocations or funds directly to populate that pick list. You can assign various email templates to this particular form. So there's a series of default ones, and we've got a couple of extra ones configured here. One of these templates is unique to the summer 2021 campaign. So I mentioned if you want to have a unique email acknowledgement on a per campaign basis, you can do that. One of them is for the consolidated receipt that we've sent to the donor. But just having a quick look at one of these, I'll look at the one-time English donation receipt or acknowledgement. So if a donor makes a one-time gift and it's in English, they've completed the English form, they'll get this email acknowledgement. And to edit that, you simply open the acknowledgement editor, and right here you can edit the rich text acknowledgement. You can change it at any time that you want to, and any changes that you make will become effective as soon as you save the record. Last thing I wanted to talk about today, and I'm conscious of the time. I appreciate everybody being patient as we run over by a few minutes here. I mentioned the inclusion of these Salesforce dashboards in the home screen. Salesforce, the Salesforce platform, comes with a very, very robust reporting engine. And because the Fundraising Manager is built to be completely consistent with the Salesforce and the Nonprofit Success Pack data model, all of that reporting capability is available to nonprofit customers as well. So if I jump over here to the reports, actually I got it open already here. Here's a very simple report, and I'm not going to delve into great detail here. Reporting is probably a webinar all on its own. But here you can see a report of donations this year, grouped by the closing date month. So you can see there's a whole bunch in October. There's probably one of the ones that we made just today. There's a bunch in September. Well, that's great. And I can do things like collapse the details, so I can just see a summary of the amounts and the number of donations that we achieved in each of those months. And I can attach, of course, a nice graphical representation of that as well. This is a very simplistic overview of the Salesforce reporting engine. It is very, very capable. It's very user-friendly. It's very easy to configure reports. But like I said, that's a webinar all on its own. Just going to jump back to my slides here in summary. So the Fundraising Manager allows you to create an unlimited number of donation forms. You can customize those forms with different ask ladders. You can customize them to allow your donors to direct to specific campaigns or fund allocations. You can style the form, so you can set colors. You can choose your own background image. You can customize the amounts and the default positions of the amounts. We don't charge any additional transaction fees beyond what Stripe charges, and they offer nonprofit organizations relatively aggressive transaction processing fees. So the only fee associated with the Fundraising Manager is a one annual license fee. And if if the forms that we provide aren't a solution that fits your requirements exactly, we've also built an API so that you can build custom web forms that directly integrate with the Fundraising Manager, so that you can embed those forms on your website and be as consistent as possible with your look and feel as is required. Of course, inside Salesforce, we've got a portal for the entry of cash and check and credit card donations from your staff. We've got all of the power of the Salesforce database to search and report, to avoid and clean duplicates, to manage your database as you need to keep the data clean and useful. We accept one-time and recurring gifts. Again, you can tailor all of this to a single campaign or to multiple campaigns to give your donors the choice. And you get to use the reporting engine to draw on all that data to derive the information that you need so that you can easily interact with your constituency. The last thing I'll say is the development team has been pretty busy and done a great job with this version of Fundraising Manager, but they're not sitting still. There's going to be another webinar, I expect, in a little while. And we're going to talk about an add-on feature to Fundraising Manager 2 that allows you to group donations by the deposits into your bank account and integrate that data with QuickBooks Online in an automated way. So stay tuned for more news from us on that feature as it becomes widely available. Oh, last but not least, again, I apologize for going over by a few minutes. We'll share these slides with everybody. Please get in touch with us by visiting our website. You can email me directly, steve@cloudstackservices.com, if you've got any questions or comments, or you would like to discuss what's possible. And there's a couple of links included there that you'll see. You can visit our Fundraising Manager page on our website directly, or you can go directly to this page and give the Fundraising Manager a try from a donor's perspective. Put your proper or correct email address in, you'll get a receipt, and you'll see how the whole experience works from a donor's perspective. With that, thanks everybody for your time, and please do reach out if you have any questions. I see there's lots of questions, or there's some chatter in the chat box. We'll do our best to get back to everybody on those and answer everybody's questions. Thanks.